about the European Union. You said that negotiations are going nowhere. Where are the kind of points
where they're just
where
very slow moving? I've been saying to everybody, they've treated us very badly over the years. It was formed in order to hurt the United States. We were restricted from, essentially restricted from selling cars into the European Union, which is not nice. And I just said it's time that we play the game the way I know how to play the game in order to take advantage of the United States, and they've done that. We have a big deficit with them. They sell millions and millions of cars, as you know, Mercedes and BMW and Volkswagen and many others.
Trump is online screaming about tariffs again, but while he rants on Truth Social, Seoul just sent a quiet delegation to Beijing with a mission so boring it sounds like paperwork. But here's the twist. That boring paperwork could actually decide who controls the world's supply of chips, batteries, and screens. So why is South Korea shaking hands while Trump shakes his fists? Because in global trade, the loudest guy in the room is usually losing. Let's unpack how spreadsheets just beat tweets. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Picture this. Trump is pounding away on his phone, red-faced, typing in all caps about how tariffs are his almighty weapon.
What are you hoping to achieve with a 50% tariffs on the?
Well, I think this is there is no tariff, because what they'll do is they'll send their companies into the U.S. and build their plant. You know, we have numbers. Nobody's ever seen numbers like we have, and if they build their plant here, then they have no tariff at all. We have, I guess, over $12 trillion practically committed. You look at other presidents; they haven't had $1 trillion for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years.
Meanwhile, halfway across the world, a room full of Korean trade officials in Beijing are quietly going through files, arguing over things like how many stamps need to be on a certificate of origin. If you look at it from the outside, one scene looks like drama and power, the other looks like the paperwork hell everyone tries to avoid. But here's the trick. Those boring papers are the ones moving billions of dollars. Trump's finger muscles might be sore from typing, but Seoul's delegation is making sure cargo worth more than entire national budgets doesn't get stuck at a port. Which sounds more effective to you? That's the thing. Tariffs sound so simple when typed out in a tweet. One number, one tough phrase, and Trump feels like he's the sheriff of global trade laying down law with a swagger. But in practice, tariffs set off a chain reaction of pain. They force companies to deal with shockwaves in insurance rates, mountains of new customs forms, port scheduling nightmares, ships sitting idle in expensive docks, and entire production lines waiting for parts that are still trapped in containers. Imagine ordering a pizza, then realizing the delivery guy has to go through 3 police checkpoints and 2 crime scene inspections before even reaching your door. That's the reality of tariffs in logistics form. The irony couldn't be sharper. While Donnie Diapers is screaming about punishment and erecting imaginary walls against foreign goods, Seoul is at the negotiation table focusing on the nerdy details that no one else thinks about, but everyone depends on. Stability doesn't come from smack talk, it comes from making sure your products can cross borders without a surprise chokehold. One leader thrives on chaos because it gets him headlines. The other is making calm moves that quietly prevent those headlines from turning into actual economic disasters. You tell me which one sounds more grown up. Here's a stat that makes it hit harder. If cargo is delayed in customs for just 1 day, the losses can climb into hundreds of millions. We're talking about perishable goods, electronics waiting to meet strict assembly schedules, and massive shipments of industrial parts. A single day isn't just an inconvenience. It's contracts broken, penalties kicking in, warehouses overflowing, and plants literally shutting down production lines because the missing screw is still in shipping limbo. That's not drama for social media, that's companies bleeding money at an insane pace. And if any nation figures out how to minimize that bleeding, their leverage grows overnight. Think of it like this. Trump is waving a baseball bat around in a dark room, shouting that he's protecting America. Seoul, by contrast, is hunched over a clockwork machine, adjusting gears with tiny, precise moves. One is about smashing, the other about keeping the machine running without stalls. Which one actually keeps the lights on? Hint: it's not the guy doing batting practice against imaginary enemies on his social platform of choice. This matters most when we talk about high-tech goods. Semiconductors don't just get produced in one country and shipped to another, they bounce around borders multiple times. Designed in one place, raw wafers in another, packaging and testing somewhere else. Same with batteries. Components flow back and forth through Korea, Japan, China, Southeast Asia, and finally North America or Europe for assembly. If that chain is predictable, companies can keep schedules tight and costs low. If it's unpredictable, one bottleneck makes everything collapse. In this reality, predictability isn't boring, it's raw power. Imagine a tariff hiccup on a Korean shipment. That hiccup rolls all the way across oceans, hitting North America's car plants where electric vehicles can't finish assembly and Southeast Asian phone factories waiting for chips. It's not just one company hit. It's thousands of jobs paused, hundreds of contracts on the line, and massive shifts in who gets supplies first. A single Trump tantrum about tariffs could end up costing companies millions in countries that had nothing to do with the fight. Meanwhile, Seoul's customs delegation is trying to get systems in place to prevent exactly this type of ripple meltdown. And this is where it surprises people. Most folks think about diplomacy as handshakes, fancy dinners, and photo ops for the press. Seoul isn't chasing red carpets in Beijing, they're pushing for technical victories, like getting certificate equivalence deals recognized or negotiating quota systems that smooth trade flows. Not flashy, but these little wins can mean the difference between steady production and entire industries begging for bailout checks. Behind the endless jargon, that's a stronger grip on economic power than one man's viral insult of the week. So the punchline here is obvious. All that sleepy paperwork Seoul is grinding through isn't filler. It's the front line of who really shapes global economics. Grumpy Trumpy thinks a caps lock rant is enough to bend nations. But real influence comes from making the rules that tell companies when and how they can ship their lifeblood products. And that turns leaders like him into spectators while the real deal makers set the schedule. And this isn't just about Korea and China either. These moves put Japan and the US on notice that the balance of trade power in Asia is shifting right under their noses. Trump will always trend because chaos sells, but Seoul's officials are busy shaping the actual rules that decide how chips and batteries travel the globe. Grumpy Trumpy screams about punishment, while Korea writes the fine print that companies have no choice but to follow. The loudest voice isn't the strongest one. It's the person quietly controlling shipping schedules, customs standards, and the flow of billion-dollar parts. So what's more trustworthy? A real system that keeps factories running, or Donnie Diaper's cloud-yelling tour? Think about that next time production lines stall and the orange turd is still shouting online.